Yo, let's talk about that Apple keynote that happened yesterday, June 7th, 2021. We get WWDC 21. The beginning of it lasts all week. There's 200 different basically developer meetings that are happening over the course of the week. But let's talk about the keynote and some of the things that you and I might actually use on our devices. Roll the intro. We'll do like a top three maybe, and we'll talk about it. And maybe you can give me some comments at the end. Let's see it. So right off the bat, let's talk about how that was an hour and 46 minutes worth of content straight from Apple. If you watched it live, let me know in the comments, but I did not. I actually saw this recording and I watched the whole thing. And before we even talk about like my top three, I wanted to say how amazing that actual video looks. Just their cinema quality and all of the different things and transitions they're trying to do, they're making it an experience to watch a keynote. And these are typically things like if you watch the Google one, it's not nearly as intricate and it just doesn't feel as good as this one does. This one feels like a movie that I want to go and see every year, and I love the one last year and I love this one. So maybe in like next year or the year after when they actually build the second Apple Park in Raleigh, I'd love to see how they go about filming that, and I would love to actually go and see it. So Apple, if you're listening, let me get a ticket. But right now, let's talk about my top three things that I actually think will make it onto my device coming out of iOS 15 and coming from the keynote specifically. So one of the things right off the bat that I thought was just astounding was the live text feature. So this is essentially where Craig Federighi actually shows you him taking a picture of what looks like to be a whiteboard, and then essentially he's able to select the text from the whiteboard in the photo. So what it's actually doing is creating live text from a photo. So this could be photos from inside your camera roll that you've already taken, or it could actually just be something that you've taken live. So that was where he actually does the photo of the ice cream store and then calls the phone number. So I think this is really incredible for like saving information and being able to take that information and use it elsewhere. So like a hyperlink or like a search feature from a photo. He actually talks about using it like if you had a picture of a dog, you could essentially search the breed of that dog based on the photo. So it'd select the dog as the subject and then you could search off of that. So where I want this to go, though, is actually deals with photography. So I'm actually a street photographer in North Carolina. So one of the things that I think about when I'm thinking about something like this is the fact that artists might be able to actually hyperlink or create some sort of search feature inside their images back to maybe an Instagram or maybe to TikTok or maybe to an online store. So there might be searchable functions inside photos. I think this is where like AI and photography meet to create something great for the artist. I think there's a lot of places that this could go. Let me know what you think about the live text. Is this something that will make it onto your device? Obviously it will because it's just going to be a feature, but how often are you going to use this? I think honestly, besides the whole like theoretical art concept, I think just being able to like take a photo and send it to somebody and then they can search inside the photo for a phone number is pretty awesome, not gonna lie. So the second thing that I think is the most important when it came to the keynote deals with iPadOS. So you know, if you've watched any of my other videos, I'm a big iPad user. I love using the iPad. I'm actually using the iPad now to record this from the Yeti, and it's one of my most used pieces of Apple hardware because it is so functional. And I think that there's a lot coming out of iPadOS with the keynote in the fact that there's so many different things. So you get things like new widgets, which we've seen with the iPhone, but now they're going to come to the iPad, which is amazing. You're also going to get things like that quick note, so you're able to swipe up from the bottom, select your note, write it in or type it in, whatever, and then send it right back. Awesome. Super fast, super efficient, really, really useful. The next thing deals with multitasking, and I think multitasking is really like beneficial, being able to open up two different windows. But on the other side, I think multitasking is going to get better with iOS 15. I think that right there is something killer for iPads because you have only a single screen, but it's making it be able to run like two screens. Now, speaking of two screens, the other piece is that universal control. Now, this is something they debuted in the keynote where you're actually able to like sidecar your iPad next to your Mac and actually use a single mouse and a single keyboard, and you can move between both screens. So you'll actually see an indicator where you're moving your mouse from one screen over to your iPad or vice versa. Or if you had three like they showed in the keynote, you could go from the iPad to an iMac to a MacBook or something. So you could essentially scroll all the way through three with just that simple single keyboard and mouse. But on the other side, we are missing the biggest feature. It's the same thing I said in the last big Apple event, is the fact that the iPad is not a Surface. It is missing that single feature, that function that I think all iPads, especially the Pro versions, should have. It should run like a separate laptop. If it had this feature, it would be a laptop killer, because you could use it along with another Apple product, or you could use it by itself as a standalone device, something with a full-blown operating system. So I made a TikTok actually talking about how Apple actually kind of missed the ball in some senses with this one, and I think they've continued to do that. I've made this point like 3 times in the last week over Twitter and TikTok, so I still think it is the biggest point to me when it comes to the iPad and any sort of keynote. I want to see a full-fledged operating system. So what do you guys think about that? I think that with that, we could have a laptop killer, and Apple would make the only laptop I would actually buy, and it would be an iPad. But let me know what you think in the comments. And the third piece of the keynote that I think is actually the most important over all of the other things when it comes to iOS 15 deals with Apple Wallet and the ability to upload specific documents, protected documents, to your phone. So by this, I basically mean that you're going to be able to upload things like your driver's license if you're from the US, depending on the state they've mentioned, and you're going to be able to upload them to Apple Wallet. So if you're familiar with your uploading your debits and credit cards to your Apple Wallet and being able to use them at POS systems all across the world, like America and probably all over the world, definitely all over America, at like McDonald's and Starbucks and Target or wherever else, you can essentially use your debit card without actually having it there, or your credit card, as long as it's attached inside your Apple Wallet. But one thing that we haven't been able to do is protected documents, things like a passport or a driver's license. And one of the things they mentioned was the fact that we're going to be able to upload those documents, like a driver's license, to Apple Wallet, and it'll be essentially a digital copy, more than just a photo, obviously. However, on the other side, there are a couple of other things that you want to know as far as like having a digital copy. Like, do I need to keep a physical copy? Does it work in a state where one state allows it and the other one doesn't? Is there an issue with fraud? I know we've seen a lot with security issues in big companies, specifically Apple and other areas. So security is a huge issue. So we need to know all of those things. But as far as just the idea of being able to put my driver's license or my passport or whatever else, my protected documents inside Apple Wallet, it sounds pretty awesome to me. And just as a side note, I actually made the joke saying that Apple has essentially alleviated my use of the Walkman, the CD player, the MP3 player, in some cases a key fob, whether that's for your house or your car, depending on those two things. Now they're going to take away my driver's license and the need of a physical copy. I mean, there's not going to be anything in my pockets except an iPhone. So that's pretty awesome too. I don't know if that's like what you guys are thinking about. Let me know in the comments if your opinions on that. But that's what I was thinking about. So with all of that, I give you my top 3. Now, there are some honorable mentions as far as the screen sharing and things like that. I think that could be really fun because you've seen that in things like an Oculus where you're able to VR chat and watch a movie at the same time. There are other things that I thought was really interesting as well. Dealing with Quick Note was one of the things, being able to, that note inside iPad. I only mentioned it briefly, but it could be really useful as far as like quick thoughts and jotting them down. The share with you feature is also something that I think could be really interesting as far as sharing a photo or a piece of content and then having a shared for you file inside whatever the app is. So if it was like a photo, it'd be in your photo library. If it was a song, it could be in Apple Music. If it was an article, they showed that it could be in Apple News. All of those things. So a shared with you folder sounds really interesting as well. But on the other side, a lot of the times what I kind of made fun of this as well is the fact that like what stops me from just leaving it in iMessage and then going back to it in iMessage or whatever. So that's another thought, but those are my honorable mentions. And with that, I give you my top 3 and my honorable mentions and all of the things that I found really interesting about the 2021 WWDC keynote. And I hope you appreciated all of this. Let me know in the comments what you found interesting, if there was something that I didn't mention that you thought that would definitely hit your top 3 that didn't hit mine maybe. Let me know in the comments all of those things. And for now, I'm going to hit you with a and I will see you in the next one. Peace out, guys. Go check all these things out too, by the way.